The day I caught my best friend's lips on my husband, my world shattered into 1,000 pieces. My name is Rachel. I'm 32 years old and I live in Dallas, Texas. I thought I had the perfect life. A stable job as a school counselor, a husband who provided for me, and a best friend I trusted more than my own sister. But that illusion came crashing down in a single moment. It was a Thursday evening. I had come home early from work hoping to surprise my husband Mark with dinner. Instead, I was the one who got surprised. As I stepped quietly into the living room, I froze. There on my couch, Sophie, my best friend since high school, was leaning over Mark. And their lips were touching. For a second I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. My brain refused to believe it. Sophie, the girl who stood beside me at my wedding, who promised me she would always have my back. Mark, the man who vowed to love me until death. Both of them betraying me in my own house. I dropped the grocery bag I was holding. The sound startled them. They pulled apart, but the image was already burned into my mind. Rachel, wait, it's not what it looks like, Mark stammered, rushing toward me. Sophie just sat there, wide-eyed, lips still trembling. Not what it looks like. My best friend kissing my husband. What else could it possibly be? I thought I had just uncovered the worst betrayal imaginable. But I had no idea. The real nightmare was only beginning. Mark grabbed my arm, his face pale, his voice shaky. Rachel, please. It was just a mistake. You're blowing this out of proportion. A mistake? My best friend's lips on my husband in my living room was not a mistake. It was betrayal. I yanked my arm free, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. Sophie stood up slowly, smoothing her hair like nothing happened. Rachel, you're overreacting, she whispered, her tone calm and manipulative. It was a silly slip, that's all. You know, Mark and I are just friends. Her words cut deeper than the kiss itself. She wasn't even apologizing, she was gaslighting me, making me doubt what I'd just seen with my own eyes. I wanted to scream, to throw them both out of my life right then. But my knees were weak and my mind spun in circles. All I could think was, how long had this been going on? Mark took a step closer. Rachel, please. Sophie's been going through a hard time. I was just comforting her. You can't ruin everything over one stupid moment. Ruin everything? They were the ones ruining everything. My marriage. My trust. My sanity. But before I could answer, Mark dropped another bomb. Actually, Rachel, I think Sophie should stay with us for a while. She needs support and it's the right thing to do. My mouth went dry. He wanted her here? In my house? Under my roof? After what I had just witnessed? I stared at both of them, my husband and my so-called best friend, and realized I wasn't just betrayed. I was being cornered. I wanted to push her out of my life forever. But fate had other plans, and that decision was no longer mine to make. That night I barely slept. I lay awake, listening to Sophie's laugh drift through the hallway as she sat in the kitchen with Mark. Every sound felt like a knife twisting inside my chest. The next morning I went into work, my eyes swollen from crying. My colleague Ethan noticed immediately. Ethan was a family friend too. We'd known each other for years through my brother. He was the kind of man who always asked how you were and actually meant it. Rachel, are you okay? He asked softly when he caught me staring blankly at my computer. I wanted to lie, to tell him everything was fine, but the words slipped out. I caught Mark, with Sophie. His eyes widened. Wait, your best friend Sophie? I nodded, biting my lip to keep it from trembling. Ethan's jaw tightened, and for a moment I saw pure anger flash across his face. Not at me but at them. Rachel, you don't deserve this, he said firmly. And I think there's more going on than you realize. I frowned. What do you mean? Ethan hesitated, then lowered his voice. Last night I came by to drop off the folder Mark asked for. When I walked past the office window, I saw Sophie slip inside, after you'd gone upstairs. My stomach dropped. I hadn't even known she'd gone in there. What was she doing? I whispered. He shook his head. I don't know. But it didn't look innocent. The ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling. My best friend was sneaking around with my husband in the middle of the night, and now Ethan had seen it too. For the first time I realized I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. Something much darker was happening right under my roof. I thought it was a one-time mistake. But Ethan's words told me the truth. This was only the beginning of a bigger betrayal. The following days felt like torture. Every corner of my home reminded me of betrayal. Sophie acted like nothing had happened. She laughed with Mark at breakfast, borrowed my clothes without asking, even left her coffee mug on my nightstand once, as if she owned the place. Mark, on the other hand, became colder toward me. If I confronted him, he'd roll his eyes. Rachel, stop being dramatic. You're imagining things. I wasn't imagining things. I was living inside a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. One night, I found myself crying in the driveway after work. That's when Ethan appeared again. He had stayed late too, and he noticed me sitting there shaking. "Come on," he said gently. "You shouldn't be alone like this." We ended up at a quiet diner on the edge of town. The smell of fresh coffee and the soft hum of music calmed me. For the first time in weeks, I felt seen. "Rachel," Ethan leaned forward, his voice steady, "I don't want to hurt you, but I think you need to know. Mark isn't who you think he is." My throat tightened. "What are you saying?" He hesitated. "Sophie's not just visiting. I've seen her car parked outside his office late at night more than once. And yesterday, I overheard them at the cafe near my building. They weren't exactly whispering." I gripped the edge of the table. My stomach churned. "Overheard what?" I demanded. Ethan's eyes softened, but his words cut deep. "Mark told Sophie he wished he had married her instead." The diner spun around me. Tears blurred my vision. My best friend. My husband. Plotting a life together while I sat in the dark, holding on to the ruins of our vows. That night I returned home with fire in my veins. I needed proof. Real proof. So I set up a small recording device in the kitchen, tucked neatly behind the flower vase. And within 2 days, my heart's last hope shattered completely. I played back the tape alone in my room. Sophie's voice giggled, low and breathy. "She's so blind, Mark. She has no idea." And then his reply, "Don't worry. Soon she'll be out of the picture for good." I pressed pause, my hands trembling so violently I nearly dropped the device. They weren't just betraying me. They were planning to erase me. I couldn't hold it in any longer. That evening, I stormed into the living room where Mark and Sophie were laughing over wine, as if they hadn't just destroyed my life. I slammed the recorder on the table. Their voices filled the room. Sophie's mocking giggle. Mark's cold whisper, "Don't worry. Soon she'll be out of the picture for good." Mark's face turned pale. Sophie froze, her hand still clutching the wine glass. "How could you?" My voice shook with rage. "You weren't just betraying me, you were planning to erase me from my own marriage." Mark stood quickly. "Rachel, calm down. Don't you dare tell me to calm down." I screamed. Sophie jumped in, her mask finally slipping. "You were never enough for him, Rachel. He should have been mine from the start." The words sliced through me like glass. At that moment, Ethan appeared in the doorway. He'd been checking on me after our talk, and now his eyes blazed with fury. "That's enough," he snapped. "Rachel doesn't deserve this." Mark's jaw tightened. "Stay out of this, Ethan. This is between us." "No," Ethan shot back. "This is about your lies. Your betrayal." Before I could process what was happening, Sophie blurted out the words that knocked the air from my lungs. "I'm pregnant." The room went silent. My world tilted. Pregnant? With whose child? My knees gave out and Ethan rushed to steady me. I thought I had faced the worst betrayal. But Sophie's confession proved me wrong. My life wasn't just falling apart. It was being ripped away piece by piece. Pregnant. The word echoed in my ears like a gunshot. I stared at Sophie, then at Mark. His silence was the answer I dreaded most. "It's true," Sophie smirked, touching her stomach. "And once the baby's here, Rachel, you'll finally understand that you were nothing but a placeholder." My whole body trembled, but something inside me shifted. For weeks I had been the victim, crying, doubting, begging for answers. Not anymore. I stood tall, wiping my tears. "You can keep each other," I said, my voice steady for the first time. "But you'll never take my dignity. You'll never take my strength." Mark tried to grab my arm. Rachel, wait. We can fix this. I pulled away. No. You already made your choice. Now I'm making mine. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between us. His presence felt like a shield. She's not alone, he told Mark firmly. Not anymore. For the first time I saw fear in Mark's eyes. Sophie's smirk faded. The power they held over me was gone. I packed my things that night and walked out with nothing but my courage. My marriage was over. My friendship was dead. But my freedom had just begun. As I lay in my new apartment days later, I received a message. My phone buzzed and Sophie's name lit up the screen. The text read, "The baby is yours to raise, Rachel. He doesn't want it." My blood ran cold. I thought my story ended when I left them behind. But destiny had another storm waiting.